what's happening, man? Um, I'm gonna post up for a minute. Um, I put out like a story or a reel or some shit, seeing if I can get some possible what would I call that? Um, you know, whatever. Good brothers and sisters to come in here and hear out my I'm doing a dump of rough progress on the theory um, that I'm coagulating, that I'm synthesizing. Definitely still doing research. Honestly, with this specific theory, there's not really ever gonna be. I can't say that. It doesn't seem like that there is gonna be an end to the research. Um, it's or okay, better way to say it is the end of the research is not up to me. It's not up to me. It's not something that I can dictate. It's going to come with quote unquote natural occurrences. And there's hints at when those occurrences may occur, seem sooner than later, but that doesn't mean shit, you know. As much as there are those of us, and it's not just me, I have found, that are welcoming and excited for said, natural occurrence. Um, we can't make it happen. There's nothing that we can do to make it happen. I've noticed that those of us that are in that, in that wave, in that mindset, we're all kind of, doing a lot of research into our own formed theories, and talking. And it's cool, bro. Like it's sick to come across the few beings that really seem to embody the same type of like energy, in different ways, definitely different iterations, but similar energy. You know what I'm saying? Like we talking about similar shit, have similar dispositions on it and views on it, and no fear, jovial even about it. You feel what I'm saying? Like that shit's cool. Like I there's not many that I've come across, but I have come across some. And so it's not to say that if you're not talking about this, type shit, or if you don't believe this type shit, then you're not on the wave, or whatever. Well, technically you're not, but that's not what I'm meaning to say. Like, it's not to say that those beings are unimportant, or I don't support them or pay attention to them or whatever, but it's in anything you do, it's always cool to come across people, beings, deities that are like-minded, that are like-spirited. You can feel a connection on a level that is hard to, you know, hard to describe in mouth noises and words. Um, so, you know, and it's there's different levels of it. One of them, is Jay Dreamers. There's Bobby Hemmett. There's, you know, in a way, Brother Panic, but he was also on some other stuff that I, don't know that I was directly feeling as much. But definitely integral in my growth, in my progression and ascendance. Like, and that it's weird because there are other deities and beings that in a way embody what I'm talking about, but not on a full scale. And I'm trying to remind myself to view it as departments in some ways. Like my brother God King Joshua speaks a lot of truth. He's doing work for us. It's not to say that we necessarily agree on everything, but we don't have to, you know. We don't have to, because the way he carries himself, it doesn't matter that the some of the things that he's on, I'm not on, because it's not that, like, say we were to, and I don't think he's in Florida. We're a few states apart, but we're from the same state. If we were in the same area for whatever reason, I wouldn't really be tripping on or like worrying if this nigga's finna like get me in some shit, because I from hearing him speak, I trust his sensibilities and his principles and all that shit. But also, like, I can also tell if some shit were to pop off, like, that nigga's not finna run. And that's my type of deity, you know what I mean? Like, same. I've been to places where you can't run, you know? There's nowhere to run, so you might as well get cracking, get bracking on it. So it's just cool to remind myself of that, because I think sometimes I get to a point where I within my studies and research, I come across shit that's so fucked up and gross and messed up and disgusting, both figuratively and literally, that it makes me look around like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like, how are there so few people that are noticing these things and paying attention to these things? So sometimes I have to kind of like figuratively ground myself and remember, hey, but you're not alone. You can feel your family out there. You've come across some of them also doing the same thing that you're doing. Not confirmed, because I would have to have conversations and interactions with those people and beings and deities directly, but it does seem like we're of the same cut, and so I don't know. Even with that, I'm still looking around like, the fuck's wrong with y'all? But within that, there's been a lot of synchronicity happening on a level of like, just, so I'm working on this theory. I'm doing all this research, and I'll say the last, like, not even just the last week, the last maybe like 2 weeks to a month, since I stumbled upon the first like notion, the first epiphany that goes in line with my working theory. It's almost like, because I stumbled on that, I've been getting these drops of like, here, now look into this, now look into this. Here's something for you to add to your theory, or that supports your theory, or that doesn't support your theory. You need to rethink some shit. It's really, I wonder if I would be noticing it in another sense, and by that I mean, like, would I be noticing these synchronicities if I wasn't, like, I don't know, aligned? I don't know the right word to use. But can I remember what happened, like how this happened today? So just to reiterate, I'm doing like this is documentation for a theory that I'm working on. I've been calling it a dissertation. I don't know if it's ever going to be a direct dissertation. I'm not the presentation type of a being, I can write a book, but I can't presentations. I used to be. I'm definitely not afraid of speaking publicly or anything like that. It's more so that I'm I don't want to say I'm having trouble with, but my brain is hard to wrangle. I constantly have more than one stream of consciousness or stream of thought going at a time, and so I can digress a lot. I used to think of it as a problem or an issue, but I don't view it that way. I just had to, kind of regroup and figure out how to utilize that to the best of my ability, or, capability, because it's not the best of my ability. So I'm documenting the progress that I've made on the theory itself. So this isn't necessarily like me going into a lot of detail or context, even though I'm sure I'll be giving like examples and reasons for why I've come to these theories. And one thing that's going to be kind of different or strange maybe to some beings about it is that if it's led me to a fork in the road, I'm going to talk about both avenues that I'm going to talk about both sides of the fork, meaning like everything within my working theory is not concluded, it's not solidified or concrete. So, I'm still working it, and anything that's led me to two possibilities or probabilities, I'm not dumping either one just because I want one of those things to be true. That's not how you get to the truth. That's how you get to an illusion. So my theory has to do with everything, essentially. And I was kind of laughing about that yesterday because there's that podcast theories of everything. But it's not just physics. His podcast is more about physics. My working theory is essentially trying to come up with an explanation for what many of us call, the simulation, the matrix, whatever you want to call it. And the reason why I'm so comfortable saying that is because I and others have examples of how physics are not always followed as we understand them. Linear time is not always followed. Logic is not always. All these things that we consider to be laws and that we consider to be constants are not that. They're not laws, they're not constants. They can be manipulated, they can be changed, they can be ignored, they can be amplified. And so within that, that's one of the things that I feel like maybe used to give me a specific weird feeling as a younger deity, like as a younger being. I've always felt weird about this place. I've always felt out of place. And I've come to find through, the broadness of internet and social media that I'm not the only person or being, I hate that word, that feels that way. Many people have always felt like this is off. Something's off about this place. That there's many things wrong with it, and that, people ignore it or revel in it and enjoy it, love it, addicted to it. And that's just not something that I've ever been willing to brush off. It has definitely caused ups and downs within my experience. It's really taken a toll on me before, caused me to kind of act out on my experience, like on myself. You could also call that being young, wanting to have a good time, party or whatever. But regardless, I've never been able to or wanted to shake that nagging feeling that something is off, and that the understanding that we're being presented with of what this is in its entirety is not only not true, but it's fundamentally incorrect. It's an illusion of what actually is. And some of this is going to be all over the place. So this is mostly for me. I would like some interaction or some feedback, but if I don't get it, I'm not stressing on it at all. This is essentially for me to put this in a place and be able to reference it, in the future. So no chronological timeline for these occurrences or these epiphanies or anything. I'm just putting them down as if I was, taking notes or something. So Plato's cave, if you're familiar with that allegory, is essentially and roughly a story where an enslaved people are born into slavery and subjugation inside of a cave, chained to a specific area inside of a cave. There is a wall in said cave that their focus is on. They can't really, like, they don't have a lot of room to move around or go anywhere else or do anything else. Their focal point is this wall. The sun, or a light source, I'll say, shines through cracks in the wall and creates shadows on the wall. The inhabitants and slaves of this, of Plato's cave, see these shadows and believe this to be existence. They believe this to be the entirety of existence. They don't think that there's anything outside of that. They don't have a concept of, necessarily even, I can't say more than 2D because you would think that they can see each other. But, like, for all intents and purposes, that's what they believe to be existence. They aren't able to conceptualize other possibilities of existence and reality. And the story goes, and this is definitely loose. I've read and listened to a lot of shit, so if you want to confirm the specific details, definitely go look for that story. It's a really, really cool story. Plato's Cave. One of them gets out and sees, for the first time. And they essentially want to go back and tell their family, the other inhabitants of the cave, about what they've seen, the wonders of what they've seen, and how horrifying all of this is. And essentially, it's a philosophical masterpiece. It really is. But at the same time, this allegory is definitely talking about this plane of existence. It's talking about this, what we're doing right now. And you have to be able to, separate yourself from the literal wording of the allegory and try to make sense of what Plato is potentially saying. And if you think, well, a lot of people are talking about a lot of these principles and these things lately. It's definitely fragmented, and I've noticed a lot of the time beings are like, they get focused, they get hyper focused on sections of this thing, which is understandable because it's vast. I'm for sure struggling with it. But if you have beings talking about how this is an illusion, for one, example, they say that, this is an illusion. Some of them mean that literally this entire existence is an illusion, and that, there's different variations. You don't exist, or your consciousness is being projected into a 3D realm. Like, there's all kinds of theoretical physics and stuff. Honestly, it's starting to become a little convoluted for me. Theories are cool. I'm not saying that there's too many theories necessarily, but it's almost like anyone can just say a thing and not really think that deeply into it, and then people like really take time to consider it, which that sounds shitty. Like I'm saying, oh, some theories are just not even worth considering, but some of them aren't. If it doesn't make any sense for any of the other contextual, like, evidence that we can go off of, then I'm moving on. I'm not going to spend time worrying about a theory that doesn't really have any substance to it. If there's some experience or context that adds to it, like, oh shit, I do remember feeling like this, or I saw this, or whatever it might be, then I'm on it. I'm adding it to the many, many, many things that I'll look into when I see or come across it, and keep it pushing, But some things are not that. And it's it's things like the illusion thing that make this difficult. It makes it very, very difficult because it's one of so okay. This is one of the forks. One of the forks in the research in the theory framework. One of the things is essentially saying this is an illusion in its entirety, meaning none of it is happening. None of this truly exists. This is all frequencies. People call it a video game, a virtual reality experience, whatever, however you would want to word that. Other theories are more in line with this does exist, but it is still a simulation. And by that, I mean, you can witness at times. It's almost like if someone were like the Truman Show, I hate to use that as the example because that movie is good and it does shine a light on this, but it's kind of slapsticky. You know what I mean? Like it's making a joke out of it. It's like mockery. You're being mocked with that movie. Just to be clear, you are being mocked with that Truman Show movie. But the idea that if something were to go wrong or unintended, that, for example, the director in The Moon can have someone fix something very, very abruptly. Or, for another example outside of the Truman Theory, you see a video of a hand wiping the surface of water, but it's supposed to be a star through a telescope or a high-powered camera. I have those things documented on my page within my post somewhere. I post constantly, so you'd have to sift through some shit. But so their theories are more in line with this does exist, but it is still a simulated existence. It's a simulated matrix where things can be adjusted very abruptly by them or they that are managing it. Not to say that it's the creator of it, but those that are helping to manage it. Because the idea that one being is controlling all of this at the same time is not very rational. If we're extensions or sparks of that same creator and we're made in that creator's image, can you do all things at one time? And it's not to say that creator obviously doesn't have more awareness and a progressed version of us, our consciousness and our capabilities and all that shit, but just going with the concept of being mentally in line with that creator in a way. It's a part of my theory that I don't think that it's just one being, and it's not just my theory. There's plenty of people that will bring up the Elohim being thought to be one God, and then people making the connection that let us create them in our image. Like it's just we've been preached to, not just in a dogmatic way, but science too. We've been preached to in such a specific way that we have overlooked a lot of things because that's the way that this has been designed to work. So those are the two, main working branches, main working theories, is that it is a sort of, and that's why people reference computer a lot outside of the physical Matrix movie, that this is all illusion. And it's a game and it's not real, and the only thing that's real is your consciousness, and the other being that this is real, but it is still that. It is still, your consciousness is the only real thing, but this is a physical place. And where I come to is that both of those things are true. both of those things are true. There's no purpose in arguing the the potential of them, because they are both true within the same time. And that's where a lot of this is leading me to. And at first I was becoming really, really frustrated with that shit. And like, how am I supposed to figure this out if I keep coming to two outcomes, at the same time? But it's because our fundamental outlook on how this works, physics, biology, like all of these things that we view as so binary are not. And I think that is by design. I think that that is a part of a very large scale, like, misinformation campaign. And I'm gonna try to get into this all. I may have to break it up because I got a little break right now from the peoples. I got the place to myself and whatnot. I'm working on an office, but it's not done yet. So yeah, both of those things in my research are true. In my experience and my research, both of those things are true. And essentially, it becomes a situation where whichever one makes you feel more comfortable or at home, I guess, within your experience, doesn't matter. Go with that. But for someone that's trying to really investigate and understand from not just a personal standpoint, but from an a literal, like, what is this standpoint, both of those things seem to be true. Meaning, the grass does exist, but it also does not. Right? Like, and I'm not trying to do some Schrodinger's cat shit necessarily, but that's just kind of what it ends up being. Like, it does exist and it does not. I don't believe in the theory that things don't exist until you observe them. I get how that two-slit experiment presents and kind of leads you to that thought. I guess I do. I do subscribe to that in a way, but not in the way that it's being presented by those that did the experiment, I guess. Or the people that are, like, telling other people about it, because I'm pretty sure that the people that did the experiment are just doing more experiments. They don't have YouTube channels necessarily. I don't think that nothing exists behind me. Right? I don't think that if I'm not looking behind me that there's nothing back there. You see what I'm saying? Like, and I get that it is a complex notion, because, for instance, right now I have a camera that is looking behind me, but that's still me observing what's behind me, right? Just because I'm not looking back physically doesn't mean that I'm not observing what's behind me. But what I'm saying is, even without this camera, I don't subscribe to some people's assertion that if I don't look behind me that there's nothingness back there, or if that a tree can't fall in a forest if no one's those things don't make sense for what this experience is. Again, it's not to say that, I do believe in both versions, that this is all not real, but it is also real, because in a way the context given to it has to do with your experience. You can say that all this is not real, and there are many people that are clinging to that specific theory solely, which I think is kind of like, not dangerous, but it's goofy, to cling to that one part of the theory. But also that it does matter, because you're experiencing it. Just because you come to this realization that this may not be what you think it is, doesn't mean that you know, let everything go or give everything up because you've come to this epiphany. It's a balance. It really is a balance, and it is difficult to navigate once you start, like, for you, not necessarily to prove to everyone else, come to these conclusions. It is difficult to still be like, oh, I've got to take the trash out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird. It's weird to navigate and to continue in, but I don't I don't subscribe to that. I think that there are a lot of beings that are like, oh, this is fake. This is not real. I don't care about anything anymore. I don't think that that's a healthy way to go about that, because in a literal sense your consciousness is real and is still here. Just because you make that realization doesn't mean you get to go somewhere else now and just ignore this. You're still here. You can act like you're not here, or you can act like everything is love and happiness and light, or everything is so dark and terrible and messed up, but none of that is true. It's still a balance, just like it was before you figured it out. And so that's kind of where I started researching for a theory, right? And the theory wasn't just the Matrix thing, or at least it did start off as that. It really did just start off as like, what is this? Why is it so weird to me? Why do I feel so out of place? Why do I reject things that other people just accept? Like, it started off very specific. And as I started to feel like I was coming to not a conclusion, but to a working conclusion of that research, it opened up more things. I've always been kind of like not into history, but I did well in history in school just because it was like, I don't know, whatever. It maybe just memorizing stuff, or okay, so no, it's because I've always been into stories. I like stories. That's why I watch movies, anime, read books. From my position, technically everything is a story. You're writing a story as you experience this place. You're observing stories as you interact with other beings and deities. Stories have just always been interesting to me. You can learn from them. You can become invested in them. You can, whatever. So as I'm coming to this working conclusion, I start to realize like there are pieces of history that are lies. At first it was very surface stuff that a lot of people know, not everybody, not even most people, but not hidden. Like, a lot of people know these things, like the Tulsa massacre, right? They call it a Tulsa riot. It was not a riot. They bombed us. They bombed us with planes. They burned our homes. And even then, the emotion, the ego comes out in me, and I start saying us, which is fine because it was us, but it was this place's us, and that is a vehicle for manipulation. That's how we have been. That's one instance of how we have all been manipulated. Not just the us that got bombed, but those that were doing the bombing also manipulated, right? You were made characters in a cosmic play inside of a matrix that both exists as material and immaterial. And so that's like the surface lies of history, right? But then as that catches my attention within my research, and I come across Rod Hayes. Rod Hayes, at the moment that I come across him, is just like just projectiling all these lies throughout history, all these inconsistencies. I knew that there were beings that had been inverted in their appearance, meaning you can find a painting of this color of a being, but then you find maybe a more reputable, like a more accurate version of the depiction of this person, and they look completely different. Different pigment, different hair, different everything. They look completely different. This is done a lot by those that are in power, whether it be monarchs, the Vatican, the, I don't know what to call the Canaanite people's, you know, mafia. The Roman Catholic Church has the Vatican. I don't know what to call it with the former Canaanites. And if you don't know who that is, like, there's 3 Abrahamic religions. I'm sure you can figure that out. But all 3 of those main Abrahamic religions and their subsets all do that. They manipulate history. They subjugate their constituents and congregations and followers. Manipulation of time, manipulation of psyche, of society, socio-political, geopolitical. Like, it's very, very vast. And as I'm hearing this other being, this other deity, just like going off on this shit, I get this vibe, I get this vibe that I'm like, oh shit, he, kind of reminds me of something. I can't really put my finger on it, but it feels like familiar, very familiar, on a level that I can't really convey in mouth noises. And I become a supporter. I like his research and his work, and it's helping me within my research and work. So, I learned, it helped me save time and energy. I'll say energy, fuck time. It helped me save energy within my research because he had already done a good bit of research for me. He had found a good bit of inconsistencies and lies, misrepresentations, scrubbing, lots of scrubbing of events. And, it was very, very helpful. Still is very, very helpful. And once I came across this, I started to kind of try to think back on things that I had seen or heard before that would be helpful in this research, in this pursuit. And I remember another resource, another being, deity, that I got that same vibe from, Mind Unveiled. They've done a lot. Their videos are so good. The production, everything about them, well researched, well documented. They don't just say stuff; they show their documentation, and which is good. I think it's fine that I say you go look for it, because that's what I needed to do for it to really stick for me, and that's how doing this, speaking, works for me. If I had to like focus on showing you my documentation all the time, it's like slowing my brain down, and I would just get lost. I would get stuck. So these things are there for you to find that I talk about. You can definitely go find them. You can take me at my word, or you can refute and say, oh, well, I just don't believe that. You can't actually refute it because it is real, it is true, the things that I talk about and say. If it's not, then I say, this is my opinion, or this is my theory. Not even theory, because my theories, I have documentation for why I come to those theories. Anyway, Mind Unveiled has a lot of really good documents and documentaries. Good visuals. They show their work, very engaging. But what I'll say with this is that I have noticed something within the beings that I resonate with, the deities that I resonate with, and my theory on the people that don't. There's this running notion that everyone's attention span has like dropped down to that of a goldfish. And it's not to say that I don't see evidence of that, but I think that it's kind of like context on the state of that being. Meaning, if you're not able to pay attention to something for more than 10 minutes, that's not good. That's not good. That's not something that you should look over or not pay attention to. Fuck you, Roku. I look up and there's like, it's on the background screen, and a UFO beams somebody up. That shit is constant. Anyway, it really is not good if your attention span is that short. If you are hyperactive mentally or physically, that's not what I'm talking about, because there are plenty of people, including myself, that have hyperactivity or whatever the fuck, people have labeled that shit to be. I think it's working at a higher level, and you're just being made to feel like weird or guilty about it. Now that I'm older, I understand that now. But in either situation, either context, having a 5-minute attention span is not good. And they say that people's attention span is like 30 seconds. I see people love TikTok, but I also see that many TikTok videos are not 30 seconds. And that there's a lot of good, gnosis and information on TikTok, and that it's not being as reined in as these other platforms. So people may say to beings like us and deities like us, like you have shorter attention spans or whatever, but you have to be able to push back and be like, no, I just like to curate my own information, and I like to curate the things that I take in. For me to be able to go look up the word Goyim and only find Canaanite apologist, results, that's lame. That's lame. If I know and you know what you mean when you say Goyim and the implications of that, and I can show to you evidence or not evidence. I can show to you examples, two E words. I can show you examples of a Jewish man saying outright, because he's a cool ass nigga, like, nope, Goyim we're making fun of you. It's mockery. He says it in his comedy special, Ari Shafir, Jew. That is the name of his special. It's amazing, well researched, and it's comedy. It's not, Anyway, Ari Shafir, Jew. Go watch it. Very, very good special. If I can look up Goyim and you lie to me with your results, you put the apologist and fishing for empathy results first, then why should I don't want to use that. I want to go find something else that's going to give me better results, more clear results. Not to say that these aren't also, possibilities, but you're only showing the things that show you in a specific light. That is not honest. That is dishonest and manipulative. And so, another example of that would be if someone were to talk about, if someone were to make comments, someone very, very high up in the public eye, very well off, musician, has a good career, and says things that are objectively true about a specific group. And then that group says, that's anti-us for you to say that. While that is true, the context of I'll just say it, anti-Semitic. You said it was anti-Semitic. So for someone to say that you own a lot of the media, or that you actively terrorize people to only speak the way that you want them to speak, talk about the things that you want them to talk about, and stay away from certain topics and truths that are not, it's not even to be debated. It's just true. That's anti-Semitic. It's anti-Semitic to tell the truth. That's fucking nuts. And so these things have been kind of skewed in a way that show it's like a clue. These things are clues to the bigger theory that started to form, right? I keep getting these feelings from deities like Mind Unveiled, like Rod Hayes. And it leads me on this path of like, okay, so history has been not just fabricated in some ways to manipulate, aboriginals, black people, or to make certain people look victimized, ex Canaanites. It's been heavily doctored and manipulated. Time has been scrubbed. Time has been added. There are whole ages that really didn't happen or didn't happen the way that they've been represented. Like, you can look at the surface of this and see how those so-called scientists keep adding more thousands of years. At one point it was like, oh, this place is only 60,000 years old, and now we're to like billions of years old, meaning this realm is now thought to be, a much different age than what we were originally taught, even just when I was a kid in school. That itself is like a surface level manipulation of experience. People aren't thinking that way when they're being told, like, oh, well, it's actually this. It's like taking away Pluto as a planet. You know, there may be science connected to why you're doing that, but you're still heavily manipulating the experience of everyone. If you teach everyone in school and have us making models of these fake globe, heliocentric, celestial bodies to reinforce that they're real, and then you take one of them away, the only reason that people weren't like, what? What do you mean it's not a planet anymore? Is because you're beating them into submission with hundreds of other things. It just becomes, I don't care. Fine. You say Pluto's not a planet. Pluto's not a planet. Who gives a... I don't give a fuck. I gotta make an A on this, or I gotta make rent. Like, it all kind of feeds into each other. Which is like a more broad representation of the theory I'm talking about. Anyway, so I start to realize that history is not just like, little manipulation here or there. It's fabricated. It's not... When I say it's not real, that's what I'm about to say. It's not real. What I mean by that is in the thing I was talking about in another video where Alex Jones says that, that mass unaliving was fake. But what he meant by that was staged. He meant staged, not fake. People were actually affected. People lost their family members, they lost their lives, so on and so forth. But it was it was made to happen. It was forced. That wasn't a natural occurrence. Same thing here with time, with history. And a lot of beings have taken to saying, mystery versus history. My story versus his story, which I do subscribe to that. I like that easy and quick way to, to differentiate between that weird, manipulative, like constantly changing account of human existence, of the existence of the beings that are around you right now, which even just that statement, there's a theory there too for me. I'm working on a bunch of theories, bro. I don't know how to even... It's really just for me and those that end up with me as this thing starts. As this starts, I want to be able to explain what I see as best as possible. It is for me, definitely for me to understand, and I gain comfort through that, but also, as this shit gets fucking bracken, like, I'm trying to be able to be like, so this is what I can say. This is what I can contribute to what this actually is. Because people are going to be broken. When shit gets fucking cracking, people are going to be like, what the fuck is life? What is that? Why is that person float? Like, people are going to lose it. And I want to be able to ground us again and be like, nope, we're good. We got to stick together. We got each other. and not everybody, because some of y'all are just gonna get people fucking killed or turn other people in and other weird shit like that. Not you. Stay over there. But these theories that I'm working on are not just for me. It's for the family, for lack of a better word. It's you start to see that history is not only written by the victor, it's written. It's not fact. It's not fact. The victor doesn't always write themselves as the victor, even. You get what I'm saying? I just talked about them a minute ago, the Canaanites. Do they seem like they're writing themselves as the victor? No, because they have a different style. They have a different approach. They write themselves as the victim. They write themselves as the victim, and they realize that they can receive much more that way. They can receive much more as writing themselves as the victim rather than, oh, we showed up at this place and displaced this entire indigenous group of people over here. We call that, you know, I do want to put this up, and this is happening currently. So every once in a while, I'll fucking censor myself because I don't want it to just disappear. I need this documented. I need this documentation so that I can use it later. So you know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's happening right now. We came to this place. We changed the name of it to something that doesn't truly exist. And then we put the indigenous people from here over there. And then we ostracize and attack them for practicing essentially another version of what we claim to practice. They don't practice that, just to be clear. But, you know, that's here nor there. If you doubt what I'm saying with me saying they don't really practice that, why with the black cubes on the forehead, right? And you can't get me for saying that, because is it just those that put black cubes on their forehead? Probably not. I can go put a black cube on my forehead right now. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like, why they're when you look more closely at the practices and the things that are done by a group of people, you get a better understanding of what and who they are. If they claim to be doing Abrahamic shit, then, I mean, what is up with the for instance, the ritual where you bite the foreskin from a newly made being? What is that? What is that? You betroth children to grown men. What is that? Like, you have to look at the context and not just accept things that are said to you and told to you. So, once I made the connection, oh shit, just because they seem like victims doesn't mean that they weren't the victor. Then it kind of momentarily it broke my concept of time and history, which is how I started on the, you know, to sidebar. That's when I started saying, oh, well, then time really isn't real, because I didn't understand that concept as people were saying it, but it helped me to get where I am now, where I just, time is not fucking real. It's a concept meant to help with making sense of something that doesn't make fucking sense. This place does not make sense. Therefore, time is used to trick you into feeling like it makes sense. You see what I'm saying? I said this was going to be all over the place, but so far this shit is making sense to me, so I'm going to keep going. So this group utilizes a tactic that is not very common. I won't say they're the only ones that have done it, because I think there's another group that I will say. Actually, yeah, there's another group in America that also utilized it. They had some help. It wasn't necessarily their idea, but they didn't say no. They took the money. Well, first they paid the money, and then now they're taking the money for simulating being the victim. They're not the victim. They're on the same team as the victor, but they are simulating being the victim and being paid for it in America. You can put that together. I don't need to say it because I don't want those fucking weirdos in my comments. It's annoying. You know what? Fuck it. I will say it. The Siberians and Mongolians that ended up coming to America and helping in the paper genocide of the actual Aboriginal indigenous beings and deities of that land, right? And keep in mind, I'm saying this as a being, as a deity who doesn't believe in any of this. This is all just context for the theory. This is all just context for where, so I can show where my brain is at with what this is, right? So that's another example of a victor or someone on the victor's team using a victim standpoint to mislead and get the upper hand, like, and it's effective as fuck for them. And so this is all building this concept in my mind where it's like all that you know, this is me thinking to myself, all that you know is not true. It's either inverted or subverted or made up or erased, like. And so then when you start paying attention, you can see it happening in real time. There was a book, I can't remember who recommended it. It was either Bobby Hemmett or somebody doing, like, I think it was somebody doing Disclosure in one of those old, like, early 90s, late 80s, I work for the government on alien projects type disclosure videos. But the book is called Our Satellite Moon. Our Satellite Moon, right? And I immediately, it's about how the moon is not natural to this plane, to this realm. It was brought here, and that it is, a hollow, non-celestial body. It may very well have been some kind of ship or satellite meant to, like, keep an eye on this place, like watch the beings that are here. And to be clear, this is not just my theory. This is a working theory that has been the subject of books, obviously. Doctors, NASA has admitted that they, like, crashed ships into, and this is going off of a narrative because I don't know if I believe in any of that shit that you see up there in that way. But either way, it was interesting to me to hear these NASA people give a narrative that they crashed a lander back into that non-celestial body and it reverberated for minutes. And then they crashed a bigger one into it and it reverberated for an hour. There are stories of bases and slave encampments and all this stuff on the same thing that you look up at almost every night because there are moon phases. The moon has not disappeared. I don't know where those videos fucking came from with that, but it was just a bunch of people who didn't know that the moon's not there sometimes. Which, sidebar, when did the moon start just being there during the daytime? Can someone explain that to me in a way that actually makes sense? Don't just come say stuff that makes you feel like you're right, because I've noticed many times I can just, what I say back disproves that. So if you really know why the moon is now there sometimes during the day, many times during the day, can you explain that to me? Because even with the flat realm, hollow realm, whatever you want to call it, theories, it still shouldn't be there all the time. And that bothers me, and I'd like to understand that. Or not all the time, but a lot more, like during the day. Random points, like noon, why can I see the moon? A lot. But so yeah, it interested and still does interest me that these, people that are basically not supposed to be telling you any kind of truth are now saying, oh, well, we crashed some shit into it and it reverberated And obviously, this isn't the official standpoint, but it's not being scrubbed. Main point being it wasn't being scrubbed. I'm about to run out of time. I'm gonna be right back. Going right back into it.